great Democrat. Please welcome to Henry County the great John Grisham. John.
Thank you, Ward, for those kind words. It is a pleasure to be here in Henry County. I've never been here before. I've already been asked 2 or 3 times, what are you doing here? Actually, this brings back a lot of memories. When I campaigned for the first time in 1993, 25 years ago, I was doing the same thing I'm doing right now. 25 years ago, seeking office, politicking, campaigning in rural DeSoto County, just outside of Memphis, Tennessee. And my opponent was a 24-year veteran who could not be beat. In fact, he was so powerful, nobody would ever run against him. And here I was, a 28-year-old kid, 2 years out of law school, running a race with no money and nothing but a whole lot of enthusiasm. And they had these big public speakings back then, literally on the back of a flatbed trailer with hay bales, and it'd have some good country music, and then we'd have barbecue thing. But the crowd this particular night, my first speech, was a massive crowd, the biggest cookout barbecue of the year, and I had to give my first political speech, and I was a nervous wreck. I hadn't given many speeches and hadn't been a lawyer for very long. My opponent went first because that was the ritual back then, and he gave a pretty good speech and got them all fired up and had all these people jumping up, and it was all pretty well choreographed. I got up, and I was my knees were shaking, and I stepped to the podium, and it was kind of a carnival atmosphere. I mean, there was other things going on, but and some clown, right when I was getting ready to speak, lit a row of firecrackers right under the flatbed truck. It sounded like gunfire. And I walked up there to open my mouth, and suddenly this, guns were going off. And I almost fainted. I almost just, wet my pants. And I thought, this is it. I squeaked out a few words and hustled off the stage, and they booed me and all that kind of stuff. And I said, I'm not cut out for politics. But I hung in there, and 4 years later, I was back at that same flatbed truck. I got elected, and I went to the state capitol in Jackson as a rookie state legislator, and I just never really warmed up to the job. I was 3 hours away from home, like Ward, with a small town law office on the board, young kids, and I was just away from home too much. I couldn't practice law, and I was missing too much. And I realized once I got elected, I didn't really enjoy public service because people feel like that once they vote for you, they have a little piece of it. So they can grab you at the grocery store, and they can corral you at church, and they can call your home all weekend when you try to close a nursing home, things like that. And I just didn't really. We had no staff. We didn't have any secretaries or anything. We were on our own. And I just got to where I didn't like the voters. I didn't like the people who voted for me. I mean, I wasn't cut out. It just didn't mix. Okay. I did not want to run for re-election, but I'd beaten an incumbent. My family talked me into it, so I ran for re-election. And so 4 years later, I was on that same flatbed trailer about to give another speech, and I felt a little more confident. And some old bozo yelled out from the crowd. He said, "Hey, Grisham, good to see you. We haven't seen you in 4 years." And I said, "Well, hell, I hadn't need you in 4 years, but I need you." I mean, it just didn't. I wasn't a public servant. I just wasn't. Back then, we wasted so much time around the state capitol. I watched these guys in Richmond, through the newspaper. Your system here is much more efficient. Our system down there was still designed to waste time. I mean, it is locked. The system is built to waste enormous amounts of time. I wrote half of A Time to Kill and half of The Firm in the Mississippi State Capitol, waiting on deadline day, waiting to kill all the bills that came over from the Senate because they were going to kill all of our bills, special sessions, where nothing got passed. It's like your last one. I mean, that's what we did. And I just sat there and wrote a couple of books. I was at the state capitol one day in January of 1990. A Time to Kill had been published, and we couldn't give the books away. We couldn't sell them. And so I was determined to write one more book. I was going to try it one more time. It was taking a lot of extra time I didn't have. and I was at the state capitol when we got the phone call that Paramount Pictures had just outbid some other production companies for the film rights to the firm for more money than I'd ever made in 10 years of practicing law. And it was not expected. No one knew it was coming. And I was suddenly really bored with politics. I couldn't wait to resign. And I quit the law too, and I've been writing books ever since. I'm not here to talk about me. I can tell stories forever. Most of them are true. I'm here to talk about my friend Tom Perriello, my neighbor in Albemarle County. Tom's running for Congress, and I'm honored to be here helping him stump, helping him get votes and get the message out. Tom grew up in Charlottesville and finished high school there. It's an old family from that area. We moved there 15 years ago. We're sort of newcomers in Charlottesville, but not long after we moved there, we met his family, or knew of his family, we met his family. And it's a very beloved old family in Albemarle County. I met Tom later, and I was impressed with his resume, his commitment. You don't meet too many people who have 2 degrees from Yale who go off to Africa to help fight for human rights, for democracy, and to work with kids who have lost limbs in wars. I hadn't met anybody like that before until I met Tom. Then when I found out he was going to run for Congress, I was very excited because Tom is exactly the kind of person we need in Washington. I spend a lot of time in Washington, fundraisers, parties, have friends there. I have great times there, and a lot of frustration going up there. I love it and I hate it, but I love it enough to keep going back. In the past 8 years, I've been astounded at the number of, the sheer number of lobbyists, lawyers, career government people who have flocked to the city. The lobbyist industry is a huge growth industry now in Washington, D.C. The city is absolutely corrupt. Everything is for sale in Washington, D.C. The government does not work. The earmark system that we have, I guess, created is largely responsible for the record deficits that's been run up in the past 8 years. It's because everybody there is trying to figure out one thing, and that's how to squeeze as much money as they can out of the federal government, out of us, out of the taxpayers. Through some scheme, some earmark, some plan, some whatever, some program. That's all Washington is. And it's extremely frustrating to see the politicians, the people that we elect, dictated to by special interests, by the people with the big money. Not by us, not by the voters, but by the big bucks. And I know Tom Perriello, I know his family, I know where he comes from, and I know that he's one guy whose integrity cannot be challenged, cannot be questioned. And to make Washington change, to make it more responsive, we've got to have people like Tom who don't care anything about special interests. He cares about you, he cares about this part of the state. He's from Albemarle County, about 25% of the votes are up there. Tom, Tom doesn't have to worry about Albemarle County. His mother will get every vote in Albemarle County. He won't say that, but he doesn't have to spend time up there. We all know it, but he is, and he will. His heart is down here on the south side. That's where his campaign is. That's where he spends his time and his money, and that's why I'm here tonight, to help him because he's my friend. He's a great guy. He's going to make a great congressman. Tom?
So much for coming, for putting up with the weather. I know it's been a crazy evening, and I'm really thank our physicians for working.